Bethesda's E3 conference is just 1 week away. 7 days from the time you're watching this video, we're going to know answers to a lot of the questions I do pose. So leading up to that with this video, I do want to prime you guys with some of the stuff you should expect to see at that conference. Specifically looking at 3 different things: what we actually know 100% is going to be there and probably how much of a role it will play, looking at some of the leaks that do seem fairly plausible and how they could fit in with this conference, and finally just some speculation based on other details that have arose over the past few months. And in particular for this video, I have some exclusive stuff around Fallout 76 that I think some of you will be interested in hearing about. Also, to be clear, this is the Bethesda Softworks conference, so it's for all the various games they do publish. Bethesda Game Studios is just one of the developers they publish for. There's going to be other games outside of just BGS games here. This is a pretty long video. I talk about a lot of different things, so I will have timestamps down below, in particular for those of you just interested in what I think we'll see around Fallout 76. But even further, if you do want to subscribe, I will be doing live streams for both this and the Microsoft conference next weekend to give further insight, details, and see how everything lines up. So to kick things off, let's first focus on what we know 100% is coming. Doom Eternal is likely to have a pretty big presence during Bethesda's E3 conference this year. This is being developed by id Software, the same developers behind Doom 2016 that a lot of people really loved. One of the reasons I do suggest this will be one of the big parts of this conference is we've actually been seeing a lot of promotion around it. Naturally, E3 conferences are more or less one big advertisement for all of the various games a studio is working on. And it seems like one of the big draws this year is Doom, based off the fact that they're creating this giant mural in downtown LA that is something very similar, basically identical, last year with Fallout 76. But even further, we've seen other things like promotional streams around Doom and just a lot of talk from Bethesda PR, especially on Twitter. It seems like they're really pushing for this game. We do know it's coming out later this year on December 28th, and I also suspect we'll see some playable demo at E3, or at least probably quite a bit more gameplay. Outside of that, one of the most recently released Bethesda games is Rage 2 by id Software and Avalanche Studios. We already know based off the Rage 2 roadmap that we're getting additional details about Rage 2 DLC at this year's E3. It almost certainly won't make up a major part of the show because, well, it's already released. You can play it right now. In fact, if you want to buy any of the games I mentioned or pre-order them, you can use my Green Man Gaming affiliate link in the description down below. There's 2 new Wolfenstein games coming out, and although I haven't seen an explicit confirmation they'll actually be at E3, considering they're 2 upcoming Bethesda games, they'll probably be there. Wolfenstein Youngblood is a new co-op game. It's kind of a spin-off of Wolfenstein. It's continuing the story, but from a different perspective. The game only retails for $30, so it's definitely a smaller scale game, but for $40 you could actually have a buddy pass, which allows you to invite one friend to play the whole game with you for free, or really for the $10 that buddy pass costs. But we're also getting Wolfenstein Cyberpilot. This is going to be a VR Wolfenstein game, pretty similar. It's also going to be a smaller scale experience, this one only being $20, so even cheaper than the previous. And interestingly enough, earlier this year we actually got additional details around both of these games. They're both coming out on July 26th. But also considering we got additional trailers, we got the release date before E3 started, I imagine they'll be present at E3, but won't take up a major segment of the presentation. And then finally, we do know Fallout 76 DLC will be present, but we don't really know exactly what's going to be shown. And that's everything we know that's pretty much going to be at this presentation, all the things that have been pretty explicitly confirmed. But now transitioning into the more exciting or fun part of this video, what is likely to be there or should be there based on certain leaks or other details that have come out, but we don't have the full picture of. It's more speculative in nature. So there's some of the what I would consider more boring stuff that we just kind of got to check off. I'm sure there'll be some new VR or Switch ports there. Fallout 4 on the Switch reportedly leaked a while ago, but we've never actually seen it since then. That could potentially be coming out. There'll probably be some details around another Elder Scrolls Legends card pack. Maybe they'll announce some new stuff for the Elder Scrolls Online. We did just see a big expansion come out for that, so I wouldn't imagine anything releasing soon, but maybe they'll just preemptively announce some stuff that's coming down the road. Although where things do get a lot more interesting is around Tango Gameworks. These are the developers behind The Evil Within 1 and The Evil Within 2. So Tango Gameworks is one of the only Bethesda studios that is really unaccounted for, that we haven't heard from in a couple of years now, but we also don't really know what they're working on. This alone makes me suspect expect we hear something from them. But even beyond that, we saw just yesterday the executive producer at Tango Gameworks and game director behind The Evil Within tweet out that he will be attending E3 this year. This being notable because he's missed previous E3s and he actually lives in Japan, so it's a pretty considerable trek for him. I think this also could fall in line with that Bethesda Amazon listing leak we saw earlier this year. On that, we seemingly saw a game added to Amazon as a placeholder that was under Bethesda Softworks, so being published by Bethesda, and taking this all together just really fits in that we get a big new announcement from Tango Gameworks. That could either be The Evil Within 3 or potentially a totally new IP that we haven't heard about yet. There also is some other intrigue with some of the other Bethesda studios. Another YouTuber by the name of Just Dom Show recently reported how there's been a lot of interesting hirings around Arkane Studios. They had a lot of Prey stuff come out last year. This year they are seemingly working on those 2 Wolfenstein games, but all of those seem like smaller tasks and there could be something bigger also going on. Although whether or not we actually see that at this E3 is still up in the air. I would say it's probably unlikely. But even further, we also do have Machine Games, also the main developers behind Wolfenstein 1 and Wolfenstein 2. In the past, we have heard a Wolfenstein 3 is coming at some point. Again, they're having Wolfenstein Youngblood and Cyberpilot come out this year, but maybe we'll also see an early tease at Wolfenstein 3. There also is the potential that a non-ZeniMax owned studio actually does have something announced during this. Rage 2 was a bit of a surprise last year as it's actually jointly created by id Software, a ZeniMax studio, but also Avalanche Studios, which isn't owned by ZeniMax, which is pretty unusual for them to actually use. But then finally, that brings us to what for me is the most interesting, and probably for a lot of you, Bethesda Game Studios, the developers behind Fallout and most of the Elder Scrolls games. So again, we know that Fallout 76 is going to be at E3, and based on previous statements, they said they're sharing their plans for the rest of 2019, which could indicate the next 2 DLC waves. That with Nuclear Winter this summer, as well as Wastelanders this fall, which is said to be one of the big ones that overhauls the game. So as far as Fallout 76 DLC goes, I have an interesting perspective because roughly around 2 months ago, I actually received a Fallout 76 leak. Now, I've received many leaks all throughout the lifespan of Fallout 76. Typically, I ignore these or wait for some way to confirm them. I definitely learned from my Starfield days that just reporting a leak as soon as you hear it isn't always the best course of action, but something interesting about this leak is I think it's pretty much real, or the person that sent it to me really put in a lot of effort to convincing me that it was real. But even outside of that, there are 2 things that do make me truly believe it. First and foremost, one of the easy ones, I was able to confirm it with separate individuals. So you could argue I have multiple sources on this leak now, but even further, and this is the particularly big one around this, some things that were predicted in the leak have come true, making me believe that the rest of the leak about future DLC is also true. Now I know this next part might frustrate some of you, but I'm not going to be posting this leak in its entirety. I have no interest in spoiling future surprises for Bethesda, and I'm merely using this leak to provide further context or additional confirmation on already data mined things or things Bethesda has already shared details on. So with that in mind, I think Fallout 76 will actually have a fairly substantial presence at E3. This is mostly just speculation on my part, but I really think they're going to go for the redemption arc narrative, that they realized they messed up, that it had issues on release, but that they've been diligent in trying to fix some of those issues. And now they've gotten the game in a pretty good state and then actually showcase some of the new and upcoming DLC. Earlier today, IGN actually shared a snippet of a larger interview that should be coming out later this week with Todd Howard that does have Todd Howard saying, "We knew, hey look, this is not the type of game that people are used to from us and we're going to get some criticism on it. A lot of that is very well deserved criticism." This full interview is going up on this coming Tuesday and I definitely will make sure to cover it, but overall I'm predicting a fairly apologetic Bethesda that has hopeful things looking forward. Outside of that, as far as what we actually see as far as new content for Fallout 76, I think Bethesda actually gave us a pretty clear nod or tease at what's coming a couple of weeks ago in an Inside the Vault article. In that article, they do explicitly confirm Fallout 76 will be at this year's BE3, but even further, they do talk about 3 things specifically: new vault raids that are up and coming, the Nuclear Winter game mode that is on the way, and finally the Wastelanders DLC that should change the game in a dramatic and significant manner. The vault raids we have a pretty concrete idea about. They're going to be instance vault raids where you and a team of 3 others actually clear through a vault and will have various challenges associated with that. They probably will be fairly difficult and might even scale to your level. I've made a full video looking at the interiors of all these vaults, and I think this will be something they show off there. What's far more interesting, and I think will end up being far more controversial, is the Nuclear Winter game mode. Taking together what we've seen through data mines and what I've actually heard from leaks, I think this is going to be a battle royale mode, or at least that will be one component of it. In Fallout 76's files right now, there are numerous voice files of what will actually be the announcer for this up and coming mode. It seems like it was accidentally leaked by Bethesda. Over a month before these files came out, I was told Nuclear Winter would end up being a battle royale mode. Then later on, as I actually saw these voice files come that seemed to describe certain components of a battle royale mode, putting those two together, it seems really likely to me. Although also in these files, they describe other things like a TDM, and one almost sounds like a free-for-all. Even further, we know this will be introduced through a new quick play system that you should have at the main menu, so it wouldn't shock me to hear that we have several new game modes, such as a battle royale, a free-for-all, a TDM, things like that. And I believe also that some of those perks that were data mined from quite a while ago will be associated with this new game mode. From other people in the community, and even people on the more technical side, there have been dissent saying that a battle royale mode couldn't be supported by Fallout 76's current engine, but based off what I've seen, I still am pretty adamant that's what I think we see as a big part of their E3 presentation this year. And for those of you really hoping it's a Fortnite clone or something along those lines, the way it's been described to me is it's really not like that. It's a bit slower paced, more survival focused, but otherwise does involve and introduce some of the major components and mechanics that battle royale does feature, but more with a survival twist. And the last major thing that was touched on again is that Wastelanders DLC. Based off what I've heard and my understanding of what Bethesda has shared, that this is going to be massive and actually have a fundamental change in the game, I believe it's actually going to be a shift in Fallout 76's time period. Technically, if you open your Pip-Boy in-game right now, it still is the same exact day that the vault opened. I believe this will bring a shift in time, maybe a year, maybe 5 years, or maybe 6 months. We'll get additional storylines and quests to go along with that, but also the introduction of human NPCs. This is heavily teased even just by the name of the DLC wave, that with Wastelanders, but also by some of the imagery of human NPCs seemingly tagging along with us. And the naming Wastelanders also does suggest that these are people that are outside, not from the vault. I don't actually know how this will be presented, but I imagine we'll see some kind of trailer for this DLC, probably towards the end of the Fallout 76 discussion. And this is literally just me totally speculating, but it'll probably start off as a typical trailer, and then all of a sudden halfway through, a human NPC pops up, or maybe somebody talking to them. Another thing we don't really know, even though I'm really confident we see human NPCs, if we don't get other things like dialogue choices, that obviously isn't as impactful. Just having a human NPC will be cool and definitely an improvement, but I think dialogue choices and some of those branching storylines is what a lot of people are hoping for, and I'm not sure that's coming with this. One of the other major questions is private servers and mod support for Fallout 76. We've heard next to nothing around this. Originally it was stated that they might come out at November of 2019 at earliest. I'm hopeful we'll hear something on this at E3, but it's my understanding that it's very unlikely. And we'll probably just get a few more nods that it's coming at some point in the future. As far as actual playability at E3, I have a hunch that this new Nuclear Winter game mode will be playable. If it actually is Battle Royale, I think there's going to be a lot of controversy around it, a lot of people upset. And I think if Bethesda is confident that it actually is a fun take on that game mode, one of the best ways to showcase that would just be allowing people to play it, so they can report on it for themselves and not be left wondering for months until they get it in game. But even alternatively, I think it is possible that we see, at least for part of the Nuclear Winter DLC, them just kind of turning around and be like, and you could download this next week. We know Nuclear Winter is slated for summer 2019, but we don't know much outside of that. I think it'd be really cool if right after their presentation, some of the new content actually does drop, or is slated to drop just a couple days later. I also think following the E3 presentation, we get another roadmap, considering how big of a success that was with the first DLC wave. That'll share further details on some of the more minor things that don't actually get presented during E3, but again, that's mostly speculation on my part. I don't have any leaks or data mines to actually back that up. But yeah, taking that all together, I think we actually do see a significant presence from Fallout 76, because it's one of the last Fallout games we're seeing for a while, and considering how much negative press there was around this game, I think Bethesda will want to make a push towards people actually playing it again, maybe even announcing something else like a price cut, or a free weekend to try out some of the new DLC when it does come out. Outside of that, as far as other stuff from Bethesda Game Studios, we'll probably hear something around the Elder Scrolls Blades. It technically still is in early access. It's had a couple of controversies even during that time, but also it has been getting steady updates and improving on some of those features. I'm hopeful we'll see something around this new Fallout Shelter Online. I just made a video on this. It's a Fallout Shelter out their sequel that, as of right now, is a China exclusive, but I think actually looks pretty cool. There's no indication it's ever coming to the US, but if it was to in the near future, they'd probably talk about it here. And then finally, that does bring us to the question of Bethesda's next AAA games, that with Starfield and The Elder Scrolls 6. Todd Howard in the past did mention how people shouldn't get their hopes up and he's not going to be talking about these games at E3. Some people took that at face value as suggesting that, yep, they're probably not coming. Others dug a little deeper into that quote and think that by him saying talking, that means there is the potential for him to just show a trailer, but not actually discuss the trailer, which yes, that could possibly happen. But my counter argument is E3 is basically one big advertisement. You want to maximize viewership of that advertisement, and it wouldn't really make a ton of sense to say you're not going to talk about something, probably convincing a lot of people that are interested in just that thing to tune out, and then actually talk about it. That wouldn't really flow with how they typically handle things, such as dropping a teaser trailer for Fallout 76 a week before E3, so a lot of people tune in just to find out more about that. But that's just my 2 cents. I would be very happy to be incorrect on that one. Yeah, that's a fairly comprehensive roundup of what I think we see at this year's E3. To summarize it, and I'm actually going to see how accurate I was this year, I think Doom Eternal is going to have a major presence here. I think we get minor mentions in the way of Rage 2 and the 2 new Wolfenstein games that have Youngblood and Cyberpilot. I think a big new announcement with Tango Gameworks' next game, whether it be The Evil Within 3 or a new IP, is also here. I think Fallout 76 and the Redemption arc narrative does have a fairly major presence and takes up a decent amount of time during the showcase, and I think that'll make up the core chunk of it, with a couple of minor announcements like maybe a VR port, a Switch port, or a new expansion for The Elder Scrolls Legends or Online. But with all that being said, what do you guys think? Do you think this is likely? Do you think it's unlikely? Do you think we'll hear more than this? Do you think Starfield is coming in 2019 for some reason? And just as a further note on that Fallout 76 leak, I really do want to be careful with it. It is easy to get carried away with leaks and get too excited for it being true that you have access to future knowledge. But even further, one of the main reasons I've been more tight-lipped with this leak is there's a lot of people working hard at Bethesda, and I don't personally want to take away from their big announcement. E3 is just 1 week away, and I don't want to post my full leak now for maybe some of it to not be totally accurate, or for it to all be accurate and then ruin some cool surprises during the E3 presentation. Them announcing it on the big screen and actually showing you gameplay of it is a lot more exciting than me just mentioning it in a video. Either way, that's pretty much going to wrap it up for this one. A fairly long video, but hopefully an informative one for you. As always, again, I thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this one, and I hope to see you all next time. Later.